So, have you ever wanted to live life as a warrior cat? I'm sure you probably have. Great idea, right? I mean, who doesn't want to be a warrior? You gotta run around as a cat doing cat things. Maybe go hunting with your fellow warriors or collect herbs as a medicine cat. However, please keep in mind that this is the warrior cat's universe. The moment you start thinking about it is the moment you realize how terrible of an idea this is. These cats are out here dying in the most awful ways possible. Especially ThunderClan background characters, for some reason. Like, before I started making the script for this video, it kinda hit me how many background characters in ThunderClan have died in truly awful ways. And I'm like, wait a minute, I can make a video out of this. So here we are. I'm gonna be covering what I consider to be some of the most traumatic and violent deaths for ThunderClan background characters. I'm going to take a moment to say that there will, of course, be some spoilers if you care about being spoiled about characters dying. I'll be covering deaths from The Prophecies Begin, The New Prophecy, Power of Three, and A Vision of Shadows. With that out of the way, let's start with some characters from The Prophecies Begin. First, I want to look at Patchpelt and Halftail. In Rising Storm, both cats are elders from ThunderClan. Near the end of Rising Storm, a fire breaks out in ThunderClan territory during the night. The majority of the cats in the clan are able to evacuate the ravine, except for Patchpelt and Halftail. And I guess Bramblekit, but that's not important. Anyway, both of the elders are left in the ravine while the fire rages outside of the camp. Fireheart makes the decision to head back for them with Yellowfang in an attempt to save them. And Bramblekit too, I guess. When Fireheart returns to the camp, he spots both Halftail and Patchpelt. Fireheart saw the shape of Halftail slumped below a branch. Patchpelt lay beside him, his jaws buried in Halftail's scruff as if he'd been trying to drag his friend to safety when he collapsed. Unfortunately, it is already too late for Fireheart to do anything. Halftail is likely already dead at this point, and while Patchpelt does eventually get dragged out of the camp, he later succumbs to smoke inhalation. While this death isn't necessarily graphic compared to some of the other deaths featured in this list, I still think it's pretty upsetting. Both of these cats were asleep when the fire began to rage through ThunderClan territory, meaning they barely had any time to react to it. What's even sadder is Patchpelt's failed attempt to save both himself and Halftail, and it gets even worse. When the fire finally clears, Fireheart and Greystripe go to ThunderClan's camp to investigate the damage. As Fireheart stared around, his heart pounding, he felt Greystripe nudge him. He followed the Grey's warrior's gaze to where Halftail's scorched body lay at what used to be the entrance to Yellowfang's fern tunnel. The medicine cat must have tried to get the unconscious elder back into the safety of the camp, hoping perhaps that the cracked rock where she had made her den would protect them from the flames. Even after Yellowfang gets separated from Fireheart during the fire, she still attempts to save Halftail. In such a hopeless situation, Yellowfang doesn't give up her efforts. I think that the way Halftail's body is described as scorched is pretty upsetting. All the deaths related to this fire are all very tragic. Next, let's move on to a death from Power 3. Power 3 has a considerably low number of deaths compared to the other arcs, but that doesn't stop it from having such an awful death to witness. Honeyfern was a warrior who earned her name alongside her sister, Poppyfrost. Life was going pretty great for Honeyfern, until the writers remembered that this was, in fact, warrior cats. In Sunrise, the last book in Power 3, at the end of chapter 16, Honeyfern is bitten by a snake while protecting Briarkit from it. The following chapter opens with the aftermath of the bite. "Help me." Honeyfern had begun to twitch and writhe in pain. "My blood is on fire. Help me, please, it hurts so much." Sorreltail slid out her claws, her disbelieving gaze fixed on the medicine cat. "Why aren't you doing anything?" Leafpool bowed her head. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "There's nothing I can do. The poison has taken hold of her." This entire scene is incredibly traumatic. Every cat in the area just watches Honeyfern slowly die. There is nothing they can do to save Honeyfern. Like, can you imagine just being there watching another cat writhing on the ground and screaming in pain as they die to a snake bite? It's terrible. It's even worse for Honeyfern too. She's told that there's nothing they can do to save her. I think what makes this even worse is how Honeyfern describes it. The way she describes her pain by saying her blood is on fire is pretty awful. Not a fun thought. And now, Snowkit. I don't think I'd be able to do this list without mentioning Snowkit. I think Snowkit is like the ThunderClan background character death. Snowkit was a kid who was born during The Prophecies Begin. In a dangerous path, it was discovered that he was deaf. Now, this isn't really a big deal. Speckletail, his mother, attempts to mentor him herself. Brackenfur also wants to receive Snowkit as an apprentice. So things are pretty hopeful even though the kid is deaf. But remember, this is Warrior Cats. And Snowkit is a ThunderClan background character. In classic Warrior Cats fashion, he dies out of nowhere, shocking both the clan cats and the reader. Fireheart heard the beating of wings and saw a hawk circling above the trees, its harsh cry drifting on the air. At the same time, he realized that one cat had not taken shelter. Snowkit was still tumbling and playing in the middle of the open space. "Snowkit!" Speckletail yelled desperately. She was just emerging from behind the nursery, and she darted toward her kit as soon as she realized what was happening. In the same heartbeat, the hawk plunged down toward the clearing. Snowkit screamed as the cruel talons fastened onto his back. The great wings flapped. Fireheart raced forward, but Speckletail was faster still. As the hawk lifted off, she sprang upward and snagged her claws in the white kit's fur. For a couple of agonizing moments, both cats dangled from the hawk's claws. The she-cat lost her grip and fell back, landing heavily on the ground. Without her weight, the hawk mounted rapidly to treetop height and flew off towards 4 trees. Snowkit's terrified crying died away. No! Speckletail threw her head back and let out a yell of pure desperation. My kit! Oh, my kit! It's not your fault, Bluestar repeated. Whoever heard of a hawk that dared to swoop down and take a kit from the middle of a camp, with so many other cats around? This is a sign from StarClan. I cannot deny the truth any longer. Bluestar gazed at her shocked, assembled clan, and her voice vibrated with anger. StarClan is at war with ThunderClan. This whole scene really just comes out of nowhere. Like, most of the other deaths in A Dangerous Path actually feel justified that they happened, I guess. And there's one in particular that I'll cover in a moment. Like, there are absolutely reasons why this death needed to happen. Bluestar needed yet another reason to be upset with StarClan. And it was even said Snowkit was killed to give Speckletail an extra nudge to move into the Elder's Den. Which is kind of crazy if you think about it. But anyways, I don't think Snowkit needed to die specifically. Do I have a solution for this? No. But do I think it had to be Snowkit? No. Now, let's move on to the other death featured here in A Dangerous Path. Of course, it's Swiftpaw. Swiftpaw was a ThunderClan apprentice alongside Brightpaw. Both of them were kept as apprentices because Bluestar refused to make them warriors. So, what do you do to show your stubborn leader that you're worthy of being a warrior? Investigate the dog's den at Snake Rocks. Now, this isn't really a good idea to begin with, but hey, it's only like one dog, right? No, not even close. This is an entire pack of dogs. Swiftpaw and Brightpaw are unknowingly walking into their deaths. Now, I don't believe we ever got specific details about what went on at Snake Rocks, but it definitely wasn't pretty. When Fireheart and his patrol arrived at the scene, the aftermath is described. The apprentice lay on his side, his legs splayed out. His black and white fur was torn, and his body was covered with dreadful wounds, ripped by teeth far bigger than any cat's. His jaws still snarled and his eyes glared. He was dead, and Fireheart could see that he had died fighting. Both apprentices didn't stand a chance against this pack of dogs. They both walked into the jaws of an unwinnable fight, with Swiftpaw even being described as being slaughtered like prey. Brightpaw herself is very fortunate to have even survived the attack, considering her wounds from the encounter. Swiftpaw may have died as an apprentice, but he suffered the death of a warrior. Now, let's skip way ahead to A Vision of Shadows. There's a handful of pretty crazy deaths in Avos, but have you considered Snowbush's death? And you might be wondering, who is Snowbush again? Well, I don't really know either. He's, of course, a ThunderClan warrior and one of Brightheart's and Cloudtail's kids. Maybe I'm missing some important information because I haven't read some of these super editions, but whatever. In Darkest Night, the 4th book in Avos, a rainstorm is destroying ThunderClan's camp. Alderheart's heart lurched as a chunk of rock shifted at the top. With a creak, it broke away from the cliff face and dropped like a diving hawk, pulling soil and plants after it. Alderheart leaped for the edge of camp as it smashed into high ledge, earth and stones cascading around it. So, do you see what this is getting at? Falling rocks plus cats equals not good. Because the camp is currently being destroyed by falling rocks, every cat is required to evacuate. Alderheart, alongside Lionblaze, Cloudtail, Birchfall, and Snowbush, swiftly head towards the Medicine Cat Den to help Jayfeather and Briarlight evacuate. Lionblaze and Birchfall are carrying Briarlight out of the Medcat Den, while Alderheart, Jayfeather, Cloudtail, and Snowbush are making a last-ditch effort to save some herbs. All of this is happening while debris is falling into the Medcat Den. It turns out that Alderheart and Snowbush are the last cats in the camp. At the same time, a massive piece of stone is breaking away from the cliffs surrounding the camp. As this rock falls, soil, bushes, and stones showered around it. Time seemed to slow as Alderheart watched. Then he felt Snowbush's muzzle shove him from behind. Lionblaze hooked Alderheart's scruff with an outstretched paw and dragged him forward as the stone hit the clearing, splitting the air with a roar as it shattered into countless pieces. Alderheart and Lionblaze seem to be alright after the stone hits the clearing, all things considered. However, Snowbush isn't. Far from it. Snowbush has stopped breathing completely and one of his legs is broken from the impact. I briefly want to mention how crazy this is. The impact of the stone creates a rush of air that knocked Alderheart into Lionblaze. Like, there's no way Snowbush's leg isn't just obliterated from this. Anyway, Alderheart manages to get Snowbush breathing again, and with the help of Birchfall and Lionblaze, Snowbush is evacuated from the camp. Shortly after, the ThunderClan cats set up a makeshift camp near the lake shore. All of the cats who got injuries in the ThunderClan camp seem to be doing alright now. All except Snowbush. Snowbush is suffering from an infection in his hind leg, and there's nothing that can be done about it. He touched his paws to Snowbush's chest. The white tom jerked suddenly beneath them. Heat burned through Alderheart's pads. Snowbush jerked again, flapping from one side of his nest to the other, his eyes staring blindly. Foam frothed at the corners of his mouth. "Help me hold him still," Alderheart yelled desperately. Poppyfrost leaped to help, throwing herself over Snowbush's hind legs. Bumblestripe hurried to the nest and pushed his paws against Snowbush's chest. Alderheart tried to hold Snowbush's head still, but the tom was thrashing too wildly. His thoughts spun. Was there an herb that would stop this? Could Snowbush feel the pain? Was he aware of anything? Desperation showed in the tom's frantic gaze. Spit dribbled from his mouth. Suddenly, the tom fell still. Alderheart slumped with relief. The fit was over. Then he saw Snowbush's eyes. They were dull. Grief stabbed Alderheart's chest as he recognized death in them. This is just such a terrible scene. The way how Snowbush's death is vividly described was honestly shocking to me when I first read Darkest Night. Mostly because who is this cat that's dying in such an awful way? And just like Honeyfern, every cat in the area is just watching him die and there's nothing that can be done about it. Like, I can't begin to imagine how horrible Snowbush's last moments were, but I believe there's one death that tops it off. So essentially, what if we took Swiftpaws and Snowbush's deaths and amplified that by 100? We get Sootfur's death in the 5th book of the New Prophecy. Sootfur, believe it or not, was a ThunderClan warrior who was born in the Forest Territories and traveled to the Lake Territories with the clans. ThunderClan was beginning to get settled in the Lake Territories until a badger attack happened. You'll never guess who ended up dying in this attack. Well, I mean, Sootfur wasn't the only one to die in this attack. In fact, there's really no reason why you should care about Sootfur dying, especially over, like, Cinderpelt. But here we are. Unfortunately for me, I'll be reading this scene mostly in its entirety, so here it is. Staring around the hollow, Squirrelflight caught a glimpse of Sootfur, his black pelt barely visible in the shadows. She could tell he was badly wounded because he was dragging himself along the ground as if he couldn't use his back legs. "Sootfur, over here," she called. The black warrior raised his head, too confused by pain to know where the cry came from. Squirrelflight darted out to him and managed to nudge him to his paws, letting him lean on her shoulder as she guided him back to the screen of brambles. "You can get out this way," she meowed, gesturing with her tail to the route up the wall. Sootfur blinked drops of blood out of his eyes. Can't climb," he gasped. "You've got to." Squirrelflight pushed him over to the wall. Sootfur clawed desperately, but both of his back legs were broken and he couldn't use them to thrust himself upward. He managed to haul himself a few tail lengths from the ground, then slipped back down again with a shrill cry of pain. At the same moment, a badger appeared, breaking down the bramble screen and lunging at Sootfur. Sootfur lifted his head, snarling, and lashed out one forepaw while Squirrelflight leapt on the badger from behind, biting down hard on its hind leg. It flung her off as if she were a fly. She crashed into the rocks and laid stunned for a couple of heartbeats. When she managed to scramble up again, the badger was lumbering off into the darkness, leaving the black warrior laying ominously still. "Sootfur, no!" Squirrelflight staggered over to him. There was a new gash in his throat and his eyes gazed sightlessly into the sky. And just like that, Sootfur is dead. When I was rereading the New Prophecy this year and I got to this scene, I had to take a moment after it. Mostly because I was thinking to myself, wow, I can't believe they really did that to Sootfur of all characters. Like, they could have just had Sootfur get killed in a single sentence, but no! The writers decided to break both of his back legs, have him struggle around for a bit, have him fight a badger while both of his back legs are broken, and then finally have him die from a wound inflicted to his throat. Oh, and I guess I have to draw out this entire sequence too, because why not? Like, is that not crazy? But wait, you know what's even crazier? Sootfur's mother also died to a badger. Badgers actually are out to get this bloodline. And with that, those were 6 terrible deaths that happened to ThunderClan background characters. If there's one thing to take from this video, it's this. Don't be a ThunderClan background character, or a ThunderClan warrior. In fact, don't be a clan cat at all, just live the simple, sweet life of a kitty pet. Trust me, it's not worth it. Thank you so much for watching. This definitely took a while to come out since I got really busy as soon as I started to work on this. I did it though, yay. Whenever I upload another video, I should hopefully have a better mic. Thank you again for watching, and goodbye forever.